Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Thiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and we are syndicated on Abundance Television, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. So I've got my friend Bob French with me right now. He actually has a lot of names. His business card is this long. So he is Dr. Attorney Robert French. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Well, I'm always excited to have you on the show, especially at Christmas time. Bob has regular segments with us, and I love how you dig for info. You know, you're like the original reporter.
Do what now?
You're the original reporter.
Well, I don't know about that. You know, you don't go to law school without being a researcher.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in school back in the 60s, some of them would tease and say I was a hound dog.
A hound dog? Like after Elvis, ain't nothing but a hound dog?
I don't know. I don't think Elvis had sung it then, but the reason they said I was a hound dog is because of my research.
Mm-hmm.
I would dig in it where nobody dug. And that's what I've done for your show today is I have written a book, another one, called The Real Story of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't published it yet. But every time I read it, I like it so much, I think I will publish it this spring. And I title it The Real Story of Christmas by St. Luke. And while I'm here on that, Luke is the most accurate book in the Gospels about Jesus. Can I just keep going, or
I'll let
took
you
the
go.
question away? Well, let me start the way I want to start.
Okay.
With what Christmas is, and really how Christmas came about. Christmas actually began when creation began. And creation began when the whatever it is that's in control of everything,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't have the brain power to understand, created everything by opening up the Big Bang that everybody recognizes happened. And that started creation. And it's still going on. There are items in the universe that are moving away from us at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond our comprehension. And I got into a lot of research trying to find out what you call it. And I wound up coming back to Moses out taking care of his father-in-law's sheep. And he saw this bush. It was on fire, but it wasn't burning up. It just had a big blaze. So he says, well, I better take a look at this. So he walks over and he gets near the bush, and a voice comes out of the bush, says, take off your shoes, you're on holy ground. So he took off his shoes and he said, who are you? And the voice in the bush said, I am. He said, yeah, but who are you? I am that I am. So Moses left there with the name of God as I am.
Mhm.
Now, that causes me to wonder, what did the bush really mean? So I conjugate the verb subject I am to English, and it means to be. I am is to be. And to be, you take it on down, and it's is. So I think that the most we can say about the creator of all that is, everywhere, all the time, ever was, is now, and ever will be, the best we can name it is. And God is. Everything is because everything is part of the Creator. Now I go back to that
Yeah, but let me
because
ask you a question because was Moses the only person who ever saw God?
do what?
Was Moses the only person who ever saw God?
Well, not in the Old Testament. If you go back and Enoch, and there were several people that had very close encounters with. Well, let's see. There, I have marked in my book the 8 people. I wish I could find it real quick. The eight. There are 8 people who had visits from angels.
Mhm.
Um, Mary and
And Joseph did too, didn't
no, he had a dream, but an angel appeared at the temple and told John's father that he was going to be the father of the herald. Well, I'm gonna get to that in a minute. I want to go back and finish getting to why we have Christmas.
he?
After this creator created everything and created us, and the Bible says in his own image, well, what it really means is that we have the ability to make decisions. We have the ability to do what's right or do what's wrong. We have the ability to know the difference. We have the ability to invent the hydrogen bomb, and yet we have the ability to improve baby formula. So, this portion of us with these abilities to think, to dream, to act, make us kin to the is,
Mhm.
which makes us children of God. Now, God gave us these abilities, and the early writers like to say that they were Adam and Eve. Now, whether you believe in Adam or Eve or not is of no consequence to me because it doesn't affect my being or my beliefs. But in order to humanize and more understand more of the is, people uh, conjured up Adam and Eve. Now, whether they're real people or not, it's up to you, whatever you believe. For me, I think they were named for humanity, Adam being the earth, and Eve being the cosmos, and the snake uh, being man's search for knowledge, the apple being the knowledge. And when he got the knowledge, he knew the difference between right and wrong. So that goes back to the theory of the Garden of Eden. Well, once the is had allowed us to have this ability to think and to know and to rationalize and to divine, then the is gave us free willpower to do what we decided we wanted to do. And so civilization started way back, and probably the more artifacts they find, the further back it is. So civilization started, according to most theorists, in the Middle East, and it was now several million years ago. It used to be 10,000, 20,000. People even tried to count the days back to Adam when I was a boy. So
A lot of counting
now
days.
they're finding that various and sundry people were alive and had their statues made or pictures made 20,000 years ago. Abimelech. I was trying to think of the great warrior giant, but being my age, it slips out of my mind right now. Uh, hmm. Anyway, he was about 8 or 9 feet tall, and he organized a city, and it was one of the very first cities. Right now, we say it was the first city, but every 3 or 4 years, we find a new first
It's a
city.
new one.
So now they're finding first cities in South America and Central America. But anyway, getting to where I'm going with this to the first Christmas. Once the is, or God, and I'll refer to the is as God because that's the way I like to. So once God didn't realize, but knew that mankind was drifting away from the original concept that they would live in eternal happiness on this planet here. There may be, probably are thousands of other planets just like it, and God is working on those at the same time. But the world and the earth and the people, out of jealousy and ego and hatred and classes and skin colors and various and sundry other differences, began to invent a thing called war. Mm-hmm. And they made these stupid weapons out of stone, mainly flint, and put it on the end of a stick and ran around, jabbed their enemies, and killed them. And there was no reason for this, but it all began before the Greek Empire, before Genghis Khan, before the Roman Empire. There were like Babylon, mm-hmm. Sumer, and other ancient cities and villages. They took offense at each other, and the world grew apart, and eventually the Roman Empire began to spring up on the Italy. And it became the most successful organization in the history of the world. Well, the is takes a look at this and sees the Roman Empire going everywhere. For example, Britannicus was sent up to this island we now call England, and he couldn't conquer the people who lived there, so he built a wall all the way across this country, Hadrian's Wall. And so if you come across the wall, I won't kill you. If you stay on the other wall, I'll leave you alone. So the wall is still there.
Oh.
Hadrian's Wall. Uh-huh. So things like that happened across the empire. And of course, they were murdering each other for power, which is something I've never understood. But anyway, if you could have power over yourself, you're a magician. Mm-hmm. But, and I can't. Anyway, you try. But anyway, there were mothers killing their sons. For example, Nero had his mother sail on a boat and arranged with the captain to sink the boat. To drown his mother, and she swam out and came home
and said,
"Good news, son, I survived a boat wreck."
And he goes,
So there was this type of thing that was happening in the Roman Empire and across the world. The trick of the Romans used for conquering was, we'll give you a chance. You can surrender and become part of the empire, and you can keep your own laws and your own leadership, but you have to pay taxes to Rome, and you have to keep the peace. If you'll do that, we'll be fine. Well, there were countries who begged to join the empire just for that reason. Because if you didn't keep the peace, here come the Roman soldiers, the most vicious in all history, and they just wipe you out. And so we get to this little sliver of land called the Promised Land, which was promised to Abraham. And it was populated and amazingly by the Syrians who are now fighting again. So it's been what? Near 8,000 years.
and they just can't get
They just
along.
can't get along. They just keep fighting.
Is jealousy at the root of it, or is it more like power?
Yeah, I think it's power. I think back in the old days it was land, it was crops. David and Goliath, if you get to the bottom of it, was over corn, not corn, but wheat, rice, or I don't know if it's rice, but wheat I know for sure, and other cows, animals, no pigs, of course. So anyway, getting down to it, after all this commotion, it was just going on horribly all over the world. The Romans bring Pax Romana, Roman peace. So they have Roman peace, but in the hierarchy of the Roman Senate and leadership, they're killing each other. Et tu, Brute, Julius Caesar, when his best friend stabbed the knife in him, Brutus. So this calamitous work was going on. And the world had Augustus Caesar. Augustus was the adopted son and really a great nephew of Julius Caesar. Well, Augustus brought Pax Romana across the world, but he didn't care anything about the power. He didn't want it. Too much responsibility. But he measured up and did like a good soldier. And he was probably the greatest Roman of them all. There's been arguments over that. But anyway, he was on his last legs, and he was in a situation where he'd lost his teeth. He was suffering from seizures, and he was a very sick man. So he quit being for the want of a better word, he called himself the first citizen. He wouldn't accept king or emperor or anything like that. And he was a tightwad. And he built wonderful buildings and brought Rome into the sunshine of civilization, brought Pax Romana around the world. But when he got sick, his relatives, Claudius, and I could name a bunch of them. But anyway, they all started fighting each other. And they divided up the armies. And although Augustus was laying there dying, the world was in chaos. 80 million people in chaos, absolute chaos. And I'm not going to go into all the stuff that's going on, from sacrificing babies, you name it. gone crazy. Well, the is takes a look at that and decides as only it can that it would show this people on this little planet how to live. And it knew that we revered magic or miracles or angels or so on. And it is considered the world and the optimum place to start this Pax Earth was Israel. They had the history of the book. They had spent the last 150 years, the first part being in a beautiful peace of a group called the Hasmoneans. And it was really a family of brothers who did a wonderful job of bringing peace to the country and staying out of trouble with the Romans. But then, and they started believing that the Messiah was coming. And there's Judas Maccabee and others. The Maccabee family pretended to be descendants for the Messiah. Well, the Jews knew they weren't because they kept heralding. They knew who your great, 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 great grandpa was. And you had to be a part of the house of David in order to be the Messiah. They laid all of this out. Well, they come down and they're having all this trouble starting with an uprising based on religion against the Romans. Well, the one thing you don't do is have an uprising against the Romans. So this was in about 8 or 6 BC. They sent a group down, just a small bunch, maybe 1,000 soldiers, to teach them a lesson. And one of the funny things that came out of this was the Maccabees joined forces with the Parthians. The Parthians were across where modern day Iran and Iraq is today. And they called them the Parthians because it meant sundown in Italian or some language. And it was the land of the sunset because when they looked in that direction in the evening, they could see sunset. One of the interesting things, I think, mostly Parthians were primarily just troublemakers. And eventually the Romans,
like what we have now.
Yeah, eventually the Romans went in and stopped them. But
and took names, right?
Do what?
They also took names.
Oh, they take that.
Mm-hmm.
They were quick to do that. And they always had a cross or a stake handy. Mm-hmm. They'd burn you at stake or run you through with a spear. It is cruel times. But anyway, the thing I want to point out about the Parthians is we don't know who they were unless we study it, and yet we use their name almost daily. And the name we use is the parting shot, or this is my parting shot. Well, you know, how many times have you heard that?
I've heard that.
Thousands of times. It's the parting. Parting is such sweet sorrow. You know. And it's called that because the Parthians, they would ride horses, and when they were losing the battle, they turned to flee, but the last thing they did was turn around and shoot one last shot at you.
Kind people, it
Yeah,
sounds
so it
like.
was called the parting shot or the Parthenian shot. Anyway, they eventually came together with Herod and they established a peace, again, a Roman peace on earth. And in my humble, very humble judgment, God wanted to show these people he had given this power of thought and so on to, he wanted to show them how to live. And so, using their own prophecies, their own angels, and so on, he decided to have this baby born in compliance with their gospels of the Old Testament. And this baby would have certain miraculous powers and would be identified as the very Son of God. But he wanted it, the is, or God, wanted man to see that he was a common person. He wasn't born in Rome. He wasn't born in Britain. He wasn't born in Gaul, which is now France. He wasn't born in Spain. He's born in this silly little old place that they wrote all these stories about that had been settled by a guy named Abraham. I got to have a drink of water.
Good time to go into a break. You know, we're halfway through the show, a little bit over. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Y'all hang in there, okay? Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillow is only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462. Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Again, thank you so much for watching us every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. or anytime you want to on any of the social media sites. We're there for you. You can also find us on our website, donnasedge.com. You'll be able to see this show and other shows there as well. But again, thank you so much for watching. I have Dr. Attorney Bob French with me right now, and really interesting. I know you've done a lot of research throughout the years,
Oh,
and it
goodness,
shows.
this thing here names the names and the places and the dates, who's killing who. And,
I want a copy of this book when it comes out.
okay.
Definitely. But now, before we get started, how can folks find your materials? You've written several books.
Well, I've got 6 published, but just go to Amazon at $20 and buy whatever you want. There's all kinds. There's a book of short stories. There's a book of John, which explains.
My son has that one.
Yeah, it's a good book. I love it. And I've written Mark and Luke. I just haven't published them. And Matthew, I've got 2 volumes, but I don't know. It's,
And the Christmas. You got a Christmas book.
Oh yeah, I've got a Christmas book, and let's see, I got my biography, Call Me Herman. Anyway, I've got several out there. All you got to do is look at Bob French on Amazon or Robert French.
Let me know if you're having trouble. I'll get you there.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so we were up to where God has fashioned this coming being after the prophecies of the Jewish religion, because they're the ones that kept the book. And they're the ones that predicted this person would come. And I was telling you about the Hasmoneans and the Maccabees. The Maccabees provided the greatest time of peace, almost 100 years in Israel. They were even, although they don't get credit, I'm going to tell you, they were even greater leaders than David. But they weren't descendants from Zadok the high priest, who was the high priest that was for David. And so because of that, they could never be the genealogy of the Messiah. Well, God sees all of this and lets man do his own way. And so he decides that he's going to send this being to earth to show people how to live in peace. And to do this, you've got to have a preference that men will understand. So he picks out a country girl in a little town called Nazareth. She's about 14 or 15 years old, and she's very devout. Now, at this time, the Hasmoneans had faded, and Sadducees, Pharisees, and the party of Herod had taken over. And the Pharisees had these strict rules of religion, and they had to abide by them. Every boy had to go to a religious school. Every person had to devote an hour of prayer each day. And they had Herod had rebuilt the temple. It had been destroyed twice, first by the Babylonians, and I reckon the second time you could say that it was a modern day Syria. But anyway, I'm not going to get into all of that. But anyway, these people were finally calmed down. And it was in the days of Caesar Augustus, although he's laying on his deathbed. And it was in BC 4, not when we call it. Jesus was born 4 years before we claim he was. If he wasn't, he could not have reached his age by the time he was crucified. Anyway, he comes to earth in the most humble arrangements you can find. Now, what had happened here? Augustus is going out. He's out. And these people, these procurators, are being appointed all over the world. Some being reaffirmed, some being new. Herod was he was reaffirmed. And I'm trying to remember, I'm having a senior moment. In the days of Caesar Augustus, when all the world was to be taxed. And so was such and such, I've forgotten. You have to forgive me, I'm 91.
With all the things he has written here, and he has to apologize for that one thing. I can't believe this. I wish I had your knowledge.
Well, anyway, he decides this child will be born in humble beginnings. But to help out, he sends an angel to tell this country girl that even though she hasn't had sex, she's going to be the mother of the Savior of the world. And really jumping ahead, we go to the Christmas, and really the only people who knew, I was about to tell you a minute ago, the new king, and I've forgotten his name, it's in here, wanted the world to be taxed so that he'd know who the people were. Mm-hmm. And so you had to go back to your ancestral home. And in this case, Joseph, who was a descendant of David, and Mary as well, had to go back to the city of David, which was Bethlehem. And Bethlehem had normally about 250 to 300 people, and now all at once it's got 8 to 10,000. It was so crowded, the owners of property were selling a piece of a space 3 feet wide and 6 feet long, so you'd have a place to sleep. And so anyway, but the point is that the wise men didn't come to Bethlehem, and the Savior of the world, who was going to be the example of how everybody should live in peace, was born in very humble beginnings where there was no place for him and was born in a stable in a cave. And the only people who came to see it were the men on the night shift. The people
They're always the one that come through, right?
yeah, the people who were tending the sheep, the shepherds. The wise men weren't there, and all the rest of it. It goes with the falderall that we have built up to Christmas. But the most exciting thing about the whole thing is God provided man with an example. If we live like Jesus Christ, the whole world would be in peace, and there's no limit to what we could do. But we don't. Okay, that's it.
And that's not it. That's
That's
not
where
all we're looking
Christmas
at.
came from, and that is when Jesus was born. That was Christmas Day. And the sad part about it is he was born probably on April 22nd,
Mhm.
BC 4, and we made it, the Romans made it when they became Christians. They made it December 25th to compete with the pagan sacrifice of feast days for Saturnalus, worshiping the planet Saturn.
Hmm.
So that's how Christmas got to December 25th. But the whole point, and that's how it got 4 years out of whack. Catholic Church did that. But the whole thing is that God provided man with an example. And he was born fulfilling prophecies, and he was born as a poor boy, but they weren't paupers. Joseph was very well educated. He was a very skilled carpenter, and he went on to raise a very large family. Oh, I think I'm talked out.
Okay, I got to ask you a question. Okay, well, we all have siblings. You had siblings. I have siblings. And, there can be jealousy within the siblings, but what would it be like to have Jesus as your brother, your Jesus as your sibling? You could never compete with Jesus. I mean, Jesus
Well,
is
you wouldn't.
perfect.
He was the oldest boy, and the next one was a girl named, I think, Mary, and then there was Joseph, and then came along the boys. And anyway, we don't know exactly how many there were, but there were a big number. And if you want the exact facts of this thing, read the book of Luke. Luke went back and interviewed Mary and lived with her for 3 years and wrote down everything she said. And his gospel is the most accurate of any story of Christmas. So delve into that. It's real simple to read.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of families that don't compete. I had 4 sisters and we didn't compete. I raised them.
Let's talk about Christmas when you were a kid.
Christmas when I was a kid, the 1st
Mhm.
gift I ever got. Well, first, my family never mentioned Santa Claus.
Oh,
Christmas was Jesus's birthday,
very nice.
and we always treated it religiously. The first Christmas gift I ever got, I think I was 4 years old, and I was given a metal airplane. Remember, this is Depression days.
Mhm.
And I was given a metal airplane that the propellers would turn on. The real Christmas I really remember was when I was 10 years old. And I asked my dad, he was at home because he'd been injured. And I said, Daddy, am I going to get anything for Christmas? Because we were down and out, but doing the best we could. He said, well, come down the basement with me and don't you dare tell your mother. So I went down there with him, and we had a coal pile with a furnace. He went over where there was some dusty coal, raked it back, got a piece of paper out, lifted it, and there was the most beautiful yellow scoop, and what do you call it, where you dig. It's got a digging bucket on it. I'm having a senior moment.
Kind of like a tractor.
No, it's got a tractor. It's a tractor with the digging bucket. Oh, goodness.
Digging bucket sounds like a good name to me.
No, what? No, you load a truck with it. Anyway, what you did is you take it and you had the cab here, and then you had the boom and the scoop, and he got behind it and turned the thing, and the bucket went down. He dug into the coal dust, lifted it up, turned it around, dumped it. He said, "That's what you're going to get for Christmas." And I was so thrilled. Steam shovel.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're girls. We're not going to know all that stuff.
Okay, well, anyway, that was the real Christmas I remember, because it was the only secret I ever kept from my mother in my life. If she wanted to know the truth, she got it.
Okay, let's talk about success, because you've been very, very successful in life. And I want to know how you did it. What would be, if you could only tell us one thing, how you reached your success, what would that be?
I always asked for only one thing. That was a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you gave me a chance, I was going to make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
The president of the University of Alabama said, "Mr. French, you're foolish. You can't work 40 hours a week and go to law school and graduate. It's too difficult. What do you have to say?" I said, "Give me a chance." They gave me a chance, and I'm one of the few who ever went to law school while working 40 hours a week. And I maintain an A average. So the heck with them. Give me a chance. That's all I ever asked for. I was sitting on the steps at Cedar Crest when I was a student. Celeste came out and says, "What are you thinking about?" I said, "I'm thinking that I need a chance." And she said, "A chance? We need money." I said, "I know, but I need a chance." So I went to town and got me a job selling machines and carbon paper and typewriters, manual.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my chance. I led the nation in sales of the new electric adding machine called the EdMate. Because I got my chance.
That's all anybody ever needs is a chance.
Well, that's what you asked me. If I had any success.
But I didn't think about it that way. You've had a lot of success.
Well, I thank the Lord. I've been fortunate, but I've been at the right place at the right time doing the right thing.
But do you think there are really chances of that, or do you think it's ordained by God? And it's up to us to take that chance.
Everything is ordained by God. There is nothing that's not God. The air we're breathing is God. This paper is God. Our conversation is God. Everything there is God. And you have to realize that. And, sometimes it would bother me to see these animals in Africa, the way the lions particularly, leopards, they kill everything and eat it. And then I got to figure, we do the same thing. We just grow ours to be docile and take them to Kansas City. Bring me the steak, brother. So we're as bad as they are. We're not much different.
But because of all the things that happened in your life, who was the biggest influence?
Lord.
You had a lot of influences, didn't you?
I have the biggest influence. That's a hard question. Oh, that's too difficult.
Your mother's got to be right on the tops.
Oh, my mother, I was thinking of men. My mother was the influence in my life because my father was injured when I was a young person, and I had sisters and had to step up. Mm-hmm. And she would call me, "Little man, you do so and so. Little man, you do such and such." And I did it.
Well, you know something, in today's time, people would say that's just way too much responsibility for a little boy. Do you agree with that?
No,
I don't
it didn't.
either.
It didn't bother me. I got the only job I could get was a paper route. I got the job, and I'd collect $4 a week, and I'd take it home, give it to my mother, and sometimes she let me keep a quarter.
So what? Okay, so what's happening now in the world? And it's probably always been, but kids get a job, they get out of college, or they decide to go with a trade because they've had training, and sometimes they want to start at the top.
Huh.
How important is it to actually start at the bottom so you can know everything?
Well, that's where you need to be. Uh,
I never got to start at the top. I always had to be the burger flipper,
you got it.
the person at the bottom.
I always had to take the garbage out,
Oh,
clean up the kitchen. Uh, I always probably got the worst job there was available, but I went at it like my scoutmaster said, Robert, if you're going to push a wheelbarrow, push it like it's got a motor on it. And
Now that's good advice.
so I did.
You be the motor.
That's it. That's it. And I called on this law professor. See, it's funny how God works. So I called on him to sell him an ad machine. And we talked and talked. And he knew I was just one semester away from graduation. So I said, you ought to go to law school. You've got a gift of gab. I said, well, I really don't want to do that. So,
Why didn't you want to do it?
because my mother had taught me all lawyers are crooks.
That could be a reason.
So,
But they're not.
well, I wasn't.
Hmm.
16 free murder cases that I defended at my own expense.
Mm.
Not because they made me. Don't tell me. I paid my dues. But funny thing about it, shortly thereafter, I was offered a promotion, and Celeste made me turn it down because she didn't want to move to Akron, Ohio, and it was the best promotion anybody could ever get. And I turned it down, and my boss cried and said, that is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. So I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. But would you let me work here and go to law school? And they had a conference about it, and they decided I was worth it. So they let me work 40 hours a week and go to law school.
So, well, let me ask you this. How important is, because in your mind, you may think, well, this is the right thing to do, but there'll be something in the back of your mind. I call it the God thing, because I've made decisions and my friends would say, are you a fool? Why did you do that? But it wound up being the right thing to do, going against the grain.
Usually it's instinct. It's something that comes up out of the gray matter.
So I do have a little gray matter, right?
Yeah, everybody's got gray matter.
But going against the Klan, going against what people would think you should do.
That's where I've been all my life.
I was
the only Republican in law school, probably.
Oh, that had to be tough.
Oh, it was. I have suffered. That's why I've defended 16 free first degree murderers. You know, give it to that Republican.
Yeah, let's watch him go down. That was the whole premise, was so you would go down, but you didn't go down.
Oh, I had so much of that, it's pathetic. I had a professor who just hated me because I was a Republican, only Republican in law school. Had an A average, going to be Order of the Coif and everything. Took wills and trusts under him. He gave me a D. I went to him, I said, Professor, I said, I wrote a better paper than a D. and you gave me a D's. I didn't give it to you. You earned it. I said, this is keeping me out of honors and order of the coif and everything that I worked so hard for. He said, well, I'll tell you what, Mr. French, he said, you take the case over and I'll give you your next grade and we'll erase this D. I said, well, that's mighty fine. I really appreciate that. So I took it over. He gave me an F.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But this is my question to you. You could have taken the easy road and not told anyone you're a Republican. Why did you let that be out there?
Because I wanted to change the world. When I was young and didn't have good sense, now I'm old and don't have good sense. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to make a mark,
Mm-hmm.
and I did. So that was successful. I'm the guy who primarily I got us the primary for the Republican Party. That's what built the party.
I was going to say, because I remember back in the day that I had grandparents who were Democrats. They would not be anything else. They always said Democrats were for the poor.
Yeah,
But looking back at the history of the Democrats, it doesn't feel that way to me.
it wasn't. It wasn't, but
But it was a good slogan.
well, yeah, they attached
Marketing.
themselves to the American labor movement. Don't get me started on them undergraduate degrees in trade unions. I could talk about that for the next year. I could teach the course. But anyway, it's been fun. I guess that about gets us, doesn't it? Or do we have time
No,
for
well,
one more?
You got time for one more thing. What would you like to say?
I would like to say keep Christ in Christmas. It's the day we honor his birth. His birth brought him here to show us how to live. If we lived like he showed us, the world would be in peace and have intimate success. Instead, we're running around looking for Bigfoot and crazy aliens from outer space. Drones, while we are missing what's really happening in our own lives. And what you ought to do is take care of the people who love you first.
And that's what you did. You made your decision
Yeah,
because of Celeste.
yeah, that's very true. But I wouldn't have the other children. The decisions were good. Karen makes good decisions for me now.
And she does. I wanted to say this about Karen. Karen is a fascinating lady.
So far.
Bob, thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I enjoy talking about Jesus, and I love talking about God. And if anybody got anything out of my rambling, use it.
It's not rambling, it's great information. And hopefully, we're going to be moving to South Carolina. And so, my plans are to be here for a Valentine's show.
Well, I have a little booklet I wrote about love.
And I'm looking forward to that. And I know that you are too. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
And thank you again so much for being with us. We definitely appreciate that. See you next time.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.